Adorama TV presents How They Do That, where we explore the world of professional photographers and share their techniques with you. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of How They Do That. I'm Mark Wallace. Well, on today's episode we have Mark Peterman. He is a commercial photographer based in Phoenix, Arizona, and he has a client list a mile long, so we're not just going to read that to you. Instead, what we're going to do is join Mark in his studio, and here is our discussion with Mark Peterman. Well, thanks for joining us today, Mark. And again, we have some people, this is in an actual working studio, so there are some of your compatriots out here working and making a little bit of noise. Yeah. So we'll just excuse those guys. So let's talk about your photography. And before we look at a lot of the images that you make, tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been shooting, and how did you get into this wacky world of shooting?
Let's see. My dad was an amateur photographer, so had a darkroom around the house when I was a kid. So that kind of got me interested in it. I've always had, film cameras laying around and probably picked those up at an early age, and then kind of got into it in high school where I was actually printing in the darkroom and stuff like that. From there I went to art school, the Kansas City Art Institute for 4 years, and my major was actually in graphic design, graphic and industrial design with a minor in photography, and then actually tried to do design work for a little while after school, and basically realized I should be doing photography, and I enjoyed that a lot more.
So as the journey, so you're one of the rare photographers that we know that are not self-taught, that actually have a background in school. How important do you think that is, that you have that design background and some of those foundational things to fall back on?
I think it's great, actually. Probably the art theory and a lot of the different things that go along with the other things I learned in school, different disciplines, taking different classes in printmaking and painting and all kinds of things, I think really adds to not being just a normal photographer. I guess I don't see it quite in the same way that other people do. And I did go to school, art school, but I wasn't really traditionally trained as a photographer in art school, so I think that also helps. And the graphic design element, where I had some internships, and that really helps out in a lot of ways, when you have to design your own print pieces and stuff like that. If you're not employing a designer to help do that, it definitely helps out because you have a slightly different eye. And I think it also helps out maybe with a lot of editorial work that I shoot, leaving empty space, because I like, it seems like the designers and art directors appreciate, dead space to put text in and stuff like that, and I like shooting that way anyway.
Put an article on your photos, or an advertisement.
Exactly.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about the color palette that you use, but before we get there, let's talk about your philosophy of shooting itself. So what kind of equipment do you use? Are you in the studio, out on location? How do you find yourself shooting most days?
Most of the time on location. I find that a little bit more interesting than in the studio. It seems like, to me, the studio actually offers up too many possibilities, and I always like to have something that kind of limits me. Not limited in a very small sense, but you have a location to work with, and that limits you. Where you kind of have to, work around those parameters. So generally on location I shoot pretty much all the time. And then gear-wise, I shoot, digital 35 millimeter, shoot Nikon cameras, a wide range of lenses, lighting equipment. I use kind of a mix of different things. I use some Dynalite AC strobes, some Profoto battery strobes, and then kind of a mix of other things that appropriate light in the right sort of way that may not really be photo industry standard stuff, but some things I've learned from other people along the way.
Are those secrets that you can share?
Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily secrets, to anybody. There are things that I do that are slightly different than other people, and I have started using a lot more available light and continuous light, in the last few years, where it's not necessarily HMIs and Kino flows, but it's things that are similar to those. It could be your modeling light from your strobe, and you just use it as available light, or it could be a $20 yellow trouble light from Home Depot that you use as a Kino flow. It's basically the same thing. It just, the difference is price, and it doesn't really matter as long as it lights the person. So. And
so you have, a lot of your photos, the lighting, I've noticed, it's not heavy-handed.
Yep.
And so it's very subtle. It looks very natural. How long? It seems to me it's more difficult to to light a subject where it looks like you're not lighting a subject than it is to just overpower it and make it look very, glamoury, highlighted, and all that kind of stuff. How did you learn how to do that with your lights, and walk us through some of that?
Okay, it's taken a long time actually to really develop that as a style where it doesn't look lit, and I think that's just kind of naturally what I like in photography. So other photographers who shoot that way, I kind of gravitated towards that as a style, and it feels like something that it feels a little bit harder to do than just putting up a lot of lights and lighting someone, like you're saying, blasting them with strobes. There's more technique to it, I think, and if you can make them look not lit, to me, it's amazing, and I always want people to wonder how you did something. It's funny we're talking about, how I do stuff, because, I always try to leave an element of mystery with whatever I do.
So yeah, it's always interesting to me when I'm talking to great photographers like yourself who light things that don't look lit. It just seems that you're never going to get the award of a great studio lighting master because people can't tell that you actually lit something. Yeah. Is that frustrating to you at all, or is it just sort of par for the course?
I think it's just the way it is. I mean, the best photographers are probably the ones who receive the least recognition. That doesn't really bother me. I mean, who wants to be famous anyway? Fame's overrated. If I can take great pictures and make money doing it,
then if you can pay the mortgage and that kind of stuff. Well, let's talk a little bit about. So you're in Phoenix, Arizona. Yep. I'm in Phoenix.
Yep.
I've seen your portfolio, and you have these locations that I don't know where they are. Because how do you find these locations, and how do you find the colors and the textures? How do you do that?
Well, location-wise, I try to scout as much as possible, and I think part of it is just keeping an eye out for something that I see as a unique place. I've learned to, in the last few years, really trust my own judgment on things, and really, if I find something interesting, I think other people will find it interesting. It's just not everyone sees it the same way initially, so if I'm going to take a picture at a certain place, say I'm scouting, looking at something, even with, maybe it's a commercial job or an editorial job, and I'm with somebody else and they don't really see what I'm seeing there. I kind of have to trust my opinion and not theirs, and just say, no, I think this is the right spot. I think this is a better place than that, and hopefully they'll trust you as well. But yeah, I guess it just comes from finding unique locations and really planning it out and everything.
Right, and you have. At this point, you have a nice track record of saying, you can trust me, look at my portfolio, I've executed. But in the early days, was it harder for you to get art directors and those kind of guys to say, all right, you can shoot at this location? Yeah,
definitely. And I think part of that was from doing a lot of work on my own. It might be model tests or just, personal projects or whatever. Just doing something creative where I trusted what I was doing, and then putting it in my portfolio and showing other people that they could trust me.
And how important do you think that personal work is, even now?
Huge. It's huge. Yeah, I'm doing more personal work now than I ever have. So I've got several projects that I'm working on that they're not finished yet, but I think it's the core of everything for me, because most of the time people don't pay me to do stuff that I really enjoy. And that sounds bad, because I'm a professional photographer and I love taking pictures. So yes, they do pay me to take pictures and I love doing that, but there are certain projects that when someone else hires you, you're never going to get total creative freedom on. Right. So you know that. So you have to do stuff for yourself, and basically the personal projects that I work on are for me, and they're a good way to develop what I feel like is an interesting project or something that I see, and then I can turn it back around and show other people. And some of those projects have gotten me some work where they're like, oh, we love what you did here, can you reproduce that for us? I'm like, okay, that's good, because that was a personal project I did for free, so now if you're hiring me to do something based off that, I'm on the right track. So
that's awesome. So earlier we talked a little bit about your design background. You're actually I think fourth or fifth photographer we've interviewed with a design background. I find that really interesting. Your color palette. So when I was looking through your portfolio, you have lots of warm colors and browns, specifically lots of browns, and here we are, lots of browns. So is that an intentional palette that you're using, or is it just seems to happen?
I think it seems to happen, but I have consciously tried to develop certain color palettes within my own work recently. I definitely like things that are a little bit more muted, and not sure why that is, but you know, it's just kind of trying to control different tones and colors and manipulate them a little bit more, and I think I just naturally gravitate towards that, I think.
So when you're on the shoot itself, are you thinking about the color palette you're going to be working with and lighting to that effect, or do you is it the opposite way? You take what you get, and then when you get back to post-production, you go, okay, let's go this direction?
It's definitely secondary color palette, but I think it's more of a subconscious thing where I'll see it and, you know, gravitate towards something because it is a certain color palette, but I don't usually just shoot and then take it back and try to manipulate it, although I do shoot and try to make it better in post-production. I feel like it's one of, you know, multiple components that I need to make, you know, line up to have everything work. It's, you know, lighting, composition, color palette, post-production, all these different things together kind of work. And I think some of the best stuff I've got is, you know, the best shots I have are where all 4 or 5 of those things work together to kind of add to make it better than just the one image.
Well, thanks for joining us. Where can we see your work on the web and your portfolio?
Website, markpeterman.com.
markpeterman.com.
Yep.
Spelled just like the Seinfeld.
MarkPeterman.
Awesome. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thanks.
You bet. Well, that was Mark Peterman in his own studio. We had a lot of fun hanging out with Mark. You can see more of Mark's work at his website, markpeterman.com. Well, remember, if you have somebody that you'd like to see on how they do that, you can send your suggestion to me at AskMark@Adorama.com. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.